YouTube channel or by listening back at ttradio.org. Don't forget to like and subscribe to enjoy more live education conversation from TTR. We hope you enjoy this show.
Outstanding and world-class vision and world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Morning. How are you doing? Hope you're okay. It's Phin Adams live on the radio for the next hour, for the final time, actually, this academic year. Most people have broken up, haven't they? Some are still going. Where are you? And do you know when to stop?
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
And talking it out, we will be doing right here live on a Sunday, 9 a.m. on the dot. How are you doing? Hope you're well. Hope your term has been a restful end, because that's really what's needed. A restful end. How's it been? How are you? How are you feeling? It's been an interesting one for me. We'll get to that. But a couple of things to talk about, a couple of admin. If you do want to get in touch, all you got to do is send a message in the comments box and I'll read it out. That'll be tremendous. Or if you're listening again on Podbean, then I won't pick up the comments until September time. Now, September's a really exciting time. There's lots of new things happening, including a new show on TT Radio. So from September, all being well, and if it gets greenlit, this Sunday show will move to Saturday and start at 10:30. So it'll be the traditional brunch slot. Because really, Sunday, 9 a.m. is breakfast, isn't it? I always call it brunch, but really is breakfast. So that's the plan from September. You might hear something different. You might hear that actually I'm back at this time. So that might be the case, but that's what it's looking like. So just heads up, get your calendars out. From September, no longer Sundays at 9, but Saturdays at 10:30, the brunch slot. So we're talking this hour, when to stop. When do you stop, and knowing when to stop? Because at a certain point and certain points in teaching, it's going to get testy. I think we just have to accept that. It's going to get testy. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you're going to be pushed to the limit. And actually, this year, I have been. 10 years in education, and it's not got easier. In some respects, it has. I think I've built up the resilience to cope with a whole variety of things. Holding the emotions that can sometimes emerge, looking at them and decided what I'll take on and what I'm going to give back. But it's been a real learning step. This year, I've learned a lot. It's been a really demotivating year for many reasons, which I won't go into because this isn't Gossip 101. This is meant to be the mental health hour. But the point I'm trying to make is at a certain point, work strain can push you to the limit. And here's the other thing. It can also go beyond the limit. And knowing then where ordinary stress becomes outright toxic, that's going to be the subject of today's show. Because this is the final week of term for many. Some schools, I know, are going on till next week. Sorry about that. Nothing I can do there. Talk to Gillian Keegan. Is it Gillian Keegan, the Director of Education? I'll look that up in a minute. The Minister for Education, rather. Minister for Magic. But there's a certain point where it can become outright toxic. So self-care doesn't work, doesn't cut it. It's actually necessary for you to stop. And that can mean taking a sabbatical, or that can mean just making sure you take real rest in the holidays, or that can mean actually leaving teaching or having time off. We'll talk all of those things because you may have experienced those. And indeed, I have too. So we're talking at that this hour. Sometimes it's necessary, if we're going to keep going, to stop before we keep going. Because it's not unusual, is it, to feel tired at the end of a working day and feel tired at the end of term? But what if you're feeling so exhausted and actually repelled by your job all the time? Is your body sending you a signal? It might be burnout. But actually knowing where the red light is and stopping is key. If you're on amber, maybe you can rush through. But red is a real strong signal to stop. And I suppose it's about differentiating normal stress. So Phil Sheridan, a UK recruitment specialist, and there's loads of them out there, states that burnout can affect almost any professional from top boss to rank and file employee. I think teachers can be on the high end of that burnout, can't they? And it's about protecting yourself from that burnout. Burnout's not the same thing as job stress. It can't be. It's the end point of unmanaged stress. So it's about stopping before you get to that end point, or if you're at end point, having the courage to stop. I've had to do it. Because experiencing too much stress for too long, as we talked about last week, actually leaves you feeling anxious, overloaded, disengaged, apathetic, cynical, despairing, even disgusted. All those negative emotions. We talked, haven't we, about the Geneva wheel of emotions in previous shows as well. But you're hitting all those negative emotions. So it's about stopping and addressing that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. It's going to be a really good show. Is it a depressing show? I'm just reflecting. Is this the right topic to talk about now? Given that the end of the term can be one of optimism. For me, the end of a school year is often bittersweet. There's actually a grieving process, I think, I found myself in from time to time. I didn't stay for I did the speeches, but after that, I left. And I think I'm feeling a whole host of emotions, relief, happiness, but also a whole host of other things connected with the specific context in which I work. But let's keep it broad so that we can all get something from today's show. And let's talk about what we can do to challenge it, to stop it, to avoid it, or maybe when we're in the thick of it, take care of it. That's what we're talking about today. We'll also have the news and some fantastic news from the England football team, where we were last week. Very different to where we are this week. But if you watch the match, 10 goals were scored. 10 yesterday evening. So we'll talk about that as well and what that might mean for the classroom. That's all to come right here on TT Radio. First, though, let's hear from our sponsors. And when we come back, we'll talk about the symptoms of job burnout. That's what we'll talk about to begin. How's about that?
In education, we all want recruitment to be fair and inclusive because the gender pay gap won't disappear without clear, practical steps in how we hire. Recent national research shows schools are already taking meaningful action. 40% of leaders now include pay or progression details in adverts. 35% highlight well-being support. And around 1 in 5 are using anonymised shortlisting to reduce bias. Teaching vacancies, the Department for Education's free official job listing service makes these steps easier with clear salary fields, flexible working filters, and an application format that supports blind recruitment. It also removes previous salary questions so candidates are assessed on their skills and experience rather than their past pay. For your next hire or your next role, go online and search Teaching Vacancies Gov UK.
This show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit hachetlearning.com to explore the full range of titles.
The Mocking Break.
That's the wrong jingle. This is the one I want.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Owning your mistakes is key. This is live. This is real. This is raw. This is Teachers Talk Radio. We're talking it out right here this Sunday. We're talking about job burnout. It's just gone 11 minutes past 9. If you do want to get in touch, all you got to do is send a comment in the comments box. It'd be lovely to hear from you. It's going to be a good show.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
And sneezing it out we will be too. Talking and sneezing, hay fever, at the ready. So we're talking the symptoms of job burnout. Where are you right here, right now? Because the symptoms of burnout are actually similar to the symptoms of clinical depression. So a 2013 French study published in the Journal of Health Psychology argued that the between syndrome overlap of burnout and depression was so high that it was unscientific to call them two separate conditions. Wow. Let that sit. I was surprised as you are when I was researching this show and I saw that bit of the study. So if you suspect you might be succumbing to clinical depression, it's always wise to consult a doctor, of course, because this show isn't therapy. I'm not a trained therapist yet, but I am trained to teach mindfulness, and I've been teaching psychology for about 10 years. So I know a thing or two about mental health, but no expert. This is just the mental health hour, and that's it. That's all it is. But if you aren't there yet, but you feel you're on your way to burnout, what are your options? Why don't we talk about that as teachers together? We must know how to take care of ourselves in some respect. Do we? Well, I suppose the first things first is just about spotting the dangers. So how at risk are you? Because according to advice given by psychologists and workplace experts, the biggest predictors are lacking control in your job, confusing expectations that are hard to meet. That is fascinating because that was really happening this week. And I had to take control and say, actually, I'm going to give some of this back. You're telling me something's not been done, but I'm telling you I wasn't told to do it. And then it was coming back as, well, you didn't show initiative. And I said, that's not the protocol. Yes, testy waters in the workplace. Have you had to do the same this week, last week? The end of term can come with it some challenges, can't it? Some other warning signs and dangers, and these are not personal to me. This is not what I'm going off. These are just essentially things that we can identify. An unhealthy work culture, a bullying boss, backstabbing colleagues. That can happen. A workplace that doesn't suit your values, skills, interests, and personality. An uncomfortable pace, so either really boring or really hectic. Excessive working hours, giving you too little time to recuperate and creating a work-life imbalance. Your sense of identity being overly bound up with your job. I've been there. I've had that. Working in an emotionally demanding profession, so that's healthcare, teaching, or ministry. And lacking people who support you in the workplace or out. Now, which of those can you relate to? Which of those can you relate to? Can you relate to any of them? I'll be really interested to hear. Any of those. And, some of these scenarios I'm making up to illustrate the point. I haven't genuinely had confusing expectations in my workplace. This is just a made up example of what it could look like. So I'm playing the part of what that could look like in the workplace. Have you had the same? Talk to me. This is TT Radio after all. We're talking it out. And that can be real and imagined. Let's talk about the burnout zone. So according to the Dutch expert Arnold Baker, we're most at risk of burnout when we're pushed too hard and helped too little. So some jobs are more inspiring than others, but demands that exceed resources can wear down our motivation, as I think a helpful chart can show. So I'm imagining, and I've not seen the analysis by Arnold Baker, but I'm imagining the chart is one of sort of, on the x-axis, you've got job demands, and on the y-axis, you've got resources and support. So if the job demands are high and resources and support are low, you've got high strain, low motivation. If the job demands are high and the resources of support are also high, you've got average strain and high motivation. If the job demands are low and the resources and support are high, you've got low strain and high motivation. So where do you want to be in that? I think I would like to be in the low strain, high motivation side of things, where the situations and experience created by an employer help workers meet the demands. And not all schools do that. Not all schools do that. So good support, helpful feedback, the freedom to manage your own time are all examples of that. Demands, pressures that call on us to use our resourcefulness and energy. So physical, mental, emotional, all of which can be really stressful if we're overtaxed and inadequately supported. That can be the case, can't it? And I can relate to those. Again, I'm not talking personally. I'm talking as a real, as an imagined exercise. None of this. Because some of my colleagues do actually listen to this show. And they say, is that really happening? And I say, no, I do a show called the Mental Health Hour. We talk as teachers generically. We're not singling out specific schools because we can't. We're actually just saying this is what the profession looks like. Simple as that. But let's also talk about preventing burnout, because that's where it sits. 1 in 3 professionals have reported struggling with burnout, 1 in 3 teachers. 2 in 3 respondents in a survey by Teacher Tapp said the main reason was having a high workload. 1 in 2 cited overtime or long working hours as a critical reason in burnout. And 1 in 4, so more than 1 in 4, said that they and their colleagues were struggling because it was hard to manage a good work-life balance. Now, I think my school, real or imagined, has got it right. But has your school? There's a question. Preventing burnout, then, if you feel you're at risk, it's best to face the facts and make working on stress management an urgent priority. So a 2014 Spanish study found that those most likely to burn out were those who tried to avoid thinking about their situation. So almost not acknowledging it. So actually being proactive about making your days as tolerable as possible is key. Spend time with supportive colleagues. Have a time each day when you unplug from contact. Doing a just breathe, where literally you breathe in and say the word just, and you breathe out and say the word breathe. It gives your brain a brain break. It really does. I love a good acronym. And the breathe acronym really works for me because the A, the T, the H, the E, I use to good effect. The A I use to stand for attend. The T and the H is the think. And then the E is the express or ease off. Express or ease off. Doesn't always work. When you're in the thick of it, it's really stressful. I was in the thick of it this week and it was really stressful. But I got there. I used the breathe acronym and it worked. And it worked. Keep your body moving. How have you found? I actually deliberately make myself walk some of the way to school now, and actually has had a profound impact on my ability to decompress, to de-stress outside of the workplace. It's key. Making space for your life for laughter and play, looking for positive moments in your day, even something small like chatting with your colleagues. Make time outside work for family and friends, connect with the community or a cause that reflects values that matter to you. Because if stress wears you down, and it can do, burnout can be the ultimate consequence. So prioritizing taking care of yourself, it's got to be the best strategy. It's got to be the best strategy. Time for the news. And this is real on Teachers Talk Radio. When we come back, we'll talk more.
In education, we all want recruitment to be fair and inclusive because the gender pay gap won't disappear without clear, practical steps in how we hire. Recent national research shows schools are already taking meaningful action. 40% of leaders now include pay or progression details in adverts. 35% highlight well-being support, and around 1 in 5 are using anonymised shortlisting to reduce bias. Teaching vacancies, the Department for Education's free official job listing service makes these steps easier with clear salary fields, flexible working filters, and an application format that supports blind recruitment. It also removes previous salary questions so candidates are assessed on their skills and experience rather than their past pay. For your next hire or your next role, go online and search Teaching Vacancies Gov UK.
This show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit hachetlearning.com to explore the full range of titles.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
Schools Week reports that a former Department for Education advisor and an Academy Trust founder have been given peerages in the House of Lords. Tim Lunig, Director of Economics at Public First and former government advisor, and David Ross, founder of the David Ross Education Trust, were nominated respectively by Lib Dem leader Ed Davey and Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch. Ross founded the trust, DRET, in 2007, and it has 36 primary schools and secondary schools across Yorkshire, Lincolnshire, Leicestershire, Northamptonshire and London. He also chairs the New Schools Network. Lunig served as a chief analyst and policy advisor to the Department for Education between 2012 and 2018, and briefly served as senior policy advisor to the Conservative Education Secretary Gillian Keegan. More details can be found online. The TES magazine reports that Dame Christine Gilbert will lead a review into failings with Key Stage 2 SATs. Results for this year's exams for Key Stage 2 pupils were delayed by more than a week due to technical issues. The review will examine the precise nature of the issues and their origin. It will conclude this autumn. The review will also look at the role that Exam Board Pearson, contracted to run the SATs, had in the process, as well as that of the Standards and Testing Agency, the Department for Education and Ofqual. It will evaluate what changes can be made to improve and avoid further disruption going forward. 2026 is the first year that Pearson has run the Key Stage 2 SATs after winning the bid for the 4-year contract. Dame Christine is an experienced figure in education, is the current chair of Ofsted and is a former Chief Inspector of Schools. More details on TES magazine. Schools Week covers proposals from the Department for Education around the education of pupils who attend provision known as EOTAS, educated other than at school. The article says schools could be ordered to oversee arrangements for EOTAS pupils, and councils could have to provide approved lists of EOTAS providers and make them sign up to national standards. Families have told the DFE in its SEND reform consultation that education other than at school needs specific attention. The article covers 7 key points around possible changes, including considering safeguarding arrangements for online provision, the use of alternative provision for children with health issues, the monitoring of how long pupils access EOTAS provision, and the focus on approved lists for AP. More can be found on Schools Week. Finally, the BBC Health News site reports that children under 16 in England will be banned from buying high caffeine energy drinks from April 2027. Drinks containing more than 150 milligrams of caffeine per litre will be illegal to sell to children in shops, restaurants, cafes, vending machines and online. Lower caffeine soft drinks such as Diet Coke, alongside tea and coffee, are not affected. Drinks including Red Bull, Monster, Relentless and Prime would all breach the limit. The new rules are aimed at reducing obesity and preventing issues such as disrupted sleep, anxiety and lack of concentration, as well as tackling poor school results. The ban is subject to parliamentary approval and will be enforced by local authorities, with businesses who break the law facing fines of up to £2,500. More details can be found on the BBC. This has been
outstanding and world-class vision and world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
We're back with a bang. I hope you're okay. Should change the name of the show to that. Back with a bang on TT Radio. Thanks, Joe Fox, for reading the news. Cut you off not a moment too soon. We'll talk more about some of that news in just a second. As well, you can't do a radio show without the weather, so I've got that. We've got through the heat waves. The hottest time in education, we're through. And I'm talking metaphorically as well as literally.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
And talk it out we will be doing. First, though, the weather. This morning is going to see areas of low cloud along with a few sunny breaks. In the afternoon, cloud will mostly dissipate to reveal plenty of sunshine, and it's actually going to become pretty warm. Tonight, we're going to have quite a dry and largely clear evening with just a few bands of high cloud pushing in from the north. Tomorrow will be a very dry and warm day, so if it's your final day of school, then that's the reality. I remember actually at primary school, just off track from the weather, all schools finished on the Friday and we came back on Monday. We then had the final day. And I remember that in my primary school. I remember thinking, this doesn't make sense. This isn't fair. Anyway, Monday, if you are in school, you're looking at a dry and warm day, mixture of patchy cloud moving in from the north along with sunny spells. The outlook for Tuesday to Thursday, Tuesday's going to start with a few patches of cloud. Plenty of sunshine will develop through the morning, but patchy cloud will remain in the afternoon. It's going to be a really warm day. Very warm on Wednesday as well. It's going to be dry with some hazy sunshine. It's easy for you to say. For much of the day, patchy cloud with the odd light shower. So that is the plan for midweek, which is hopefully when you've broken up. Hopefully. Right, let's have a look at today's papers. We've got a variety of headlines. Of course we do. The papers on Sunday spotlight Andy Burnham mostly on the eve of him officially becoming Prime Minister. Messiah without a mandate is the Mail's headline after an exclusive poll for the paper, of course, found voters want Burnham to call a general election to legitimise his agenda. Another one? I'm thinking of that Vox Pop. Is it Wendy? You know that famous Vox Pop where they said, I think it was the 2017 election, or was it 2019? You know that period of time we had basically a general election every 2 years because politicians kept resigning and balloting, and it was just a bit of a mess, wasn't it? There's an opinion for you. Was it 2018 or 2019? I think it was. Anyway, there is the call for a general election. Sir Keir Starmer's flagship plan for digital IDs will be scrapped by the incoming Prime Minister. That's the report by the Sunday Telegraph. Burnham has pledged to redirect the resources towards people's everyday priorities. That's their report. or at least their commentary on the front page. Pictured on this front page is, of course, the England team after they beat France in a 10-goal thriller. Yes, I'm going to confess something. I fell asleep after half-time because it was 4-0. I thought it's a good match, but I'm just a bit tired. I thought it was really interesting because it just shows when there's less pressure to perform, the English lads do perform. Isn't that interesting? We've all been in situations where, well, certainly as teachers, as public speakers, we choke up when we are faced with the pressure of a massive wide school assembly, right? Or have you never been in that situation? I'm finding more and more, though, I'm not getting nervous for things like I used to. Like I was doing a staff CPD a couple of weeks ago, and I wasn't nervous for it at all. And there were issues, but I took them and I thought, yeah, this is it. I can cope with that. So maybe that's a sign that I need to think about options and things. We'll talk about that. We'll get to that. All to come. Sunday Times, Burnham will take over failing Thames Water. So Thames Water, Britain's biggest water company, could be pushed into a special form of administration by Burnham. He's pledged to take greater public control of the nation's utilities. If that follows through on Thames Water, it would be actually an unprecedented intervention into privately owned utilities. The Observer, they've done a caricature. Their headline is Burnham's Odyssey, the journey to number 10, with a sketch, of course, the new Labour leader in Greek panoply. Have you seen the new film, The Odyssey? It looks pretty good indeed. I've not seen it, but I plan to. So it's an interesting caricature on the Observer's front page. Sunday Express, Labour blows 12 million a year on left-wing advisors. So this is the wage bill for Labour's advisors, almost doubled from 6.9 million in 2019 to an eye-watering 12.4 million in the most recent financial year. This is according to the Sunday Express. Josh Kerr is pictured celebrating after he smashed the long-standing men's mile world record at the London Diamond League yesterday. Harry wants more UK visits with kids. So sources have apparently told the Sunday Mirror that the King has had an emotional meeting with his son and children last week after 4 years. Prince Harry wants to bring his wife and children back to Britain for more reunions with the King, reports the paper. Sunday People, new WASPy hope from Burnham. So Women Against State Pension Inequality, otherwise known as WASPy, revealed that they are in talks with Burnham, according to the Sunday People. Daily Star, attack of the Argy ants. Attack of the Argy ants. So this is the Daily Star splashing on the invasion of indestructible Argentine ants that are threatening British wildlife and crops. The paper dresses an ant in Argentina's football jersey as the team prepares for the World Cup final against Spain. The Sun on Sunday, shock for Pricey. I won't read that full thing out because it's a little bit explicit, but this is their headline, reportedly involving Lee Andrews and his wife, Katie Price. I don't think it's one you'd probably choose for the classroom. According to the paper, Andrews planned to sell a particular tape for a pretty penny. There it is. Those are your papers on Sunday morning. And there we have it. You're listening to TT Radio. Hope you're okay. Hope you're well. I could hear a bird noise outside. I was thinking, have I clicked a jingle? Can you hear that bird noise? The sun is shining. The birds are tweeting. Unless you're in an international school. Maybe you are in the UAE and you're still teaching remotely because of the missiles, for example, and other things. So, interesting stuff. We're talking burnout here on TT Radio. If you do want to get in touch, all you got to do is send a message under the comments box. We're talking about when to stop. When to stop on TT Radio. When to stop. Well, not stop on TT Radio. I think the CEO is pretty happy with the show I'm doing. Let's see, though. But I think, there's a question mark here around pressures in the classroom and understanding those pressures. But I also wanted to broaden this out. And I said we'd talk very broadly because it's not a personal show, this is just real and imagined situations that I talk about on the radio. And hopefully that captures people's attention, and maybe you can relate to it. But I wanted to talk about money worries, the penny pinch, the cost of living crisis. We're in an age where teachers' pay has risen by 3.5% if we're in a state school, but there is still insecurity around that. Many people, many teachers are struggling about paying the bills. So in today's economy, a degree of debt is common. But are you hurting financially as a teacher? That's what I wanted to talk about, because 62% of teachers argue that they should be paid more, according to a recent survey. So how do you manage? How do you manage? Do you create a plan? Do you go for a grant? Do you try and find a grant? Do you budget your expenses? Do you favor cash over credit cards? It is an interesting one, isn't it? Robert Lee of the American Institute for Cognitive Therapy recommends we separate our self-esteem from our finances and ease the strain by enjoying as many meaningful experiences as we can. Debt, he argues, for teachers can be managed and stress lowers if we keep it in perspective. I think that's fascinating because our worth is often connected with the money that we're paid. And I think many teachers are facing that financial stressor. So there's something in that, quite possibly. And maybe the clue is to assert yourself, renegotiate the pay that you're on, speaking up, ask for what you want. Why don't we talk about that actually after we hear from our sponsors right here on TT Radio? When we come back, let's talk about asserting, learning to draw the line, and let's talk about speaking up. So that's all to come right here on TT Radio. Do stay with us. You're listening to the Sunday Breakfast with Phin. It's a pleasure keeping you company on this Sunday morning as most of us break up for term, as in break up for the holidays from term, rather. If that's you, great. If that's not you, it will be soon.
In education, we all want recruitment to be fair and inclusive because the gender pay gap won't disappear without clear, practical steps in how we hire. Recent national research shows schools are already taking meaningful action. 40% of leaders now include pay or progression details in adverts. 35% highlight well-being support, and around 1 in 5 are using anonymised shortlisting to reduce bias. Teaching vacancies, the Department for Education's free official job listing service, makes these steps easier with clear salary fields, flexible working filters, and an application format that supports blind recruitment. It also removes previous salary questions so candidates are assessed on their skills and experience rather than their past pay. For your next hire or your net role, go online and search Teaching Vacancies Gov UK.
This show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit hachetlearning.com to explore the full range of titles.
Right. Let's talk asserting yourself right here on TT Radio, whether it's about pay, whether it's about being told you've done something wrong when actually you didn't, or something in between. Let's do it.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
There it is. So, let's do it. Asserting yourself, learning to draw the line. Few things are more stressful than feeling you can't stand up for yourself, right? So in the face of others' demands, you've got to do it. And I touched on this previously, and people are going to think, well, he's talking personally. No, I'm not. I'm talking generally. Let's be really clear. These examples are general. So there are few things more stressful than this, right? So if stress means feeling unable to cope with life's demands, then clearly we need to keep life's demands in a manageable level, but we also need to work on assertiveness skills, because what if you find it hard to tell other people you've already got enough to deal with and you can't take any more? So there's always, I find that I fear being seen as aggressive, right? So aggression is focused on winning. Assertiveness, though, is focused on fairness. And I always try to be assertive. Sometimes I think I get it wrong. And I actually did a whole CPD on this. Whether staff values it or not is another question, but it's around transaction analysis and ego states. But essentially, if refusing a request, avoid implying that you do it if you could. So actually, a 2012 American study found that people are 8 times more likely to accept an I don't statement than an I can't one. Isn't that interesting? So assertiveness is focused on fairness. So an assertive person tries to appreciate that other people have rights too, and only disregards their wishes if it's impossible or unreasonable to do so. So you may seem less aggressive to others than you fear, especially if you tend to feel uncomfortable with asserting your needs. So a 2014 study in Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin found that many people who felt they were coming across as overly pushy were in fact rated as appropriately assertive by their fellow participants. So this isn't necessarily a sign that you should ramp up your assertiveness as a teacher, but among the over assertive participants, the same study actually found that 64% saw themselves as appropriately or even under assertive. So it's probably wise to ask a few trusted colleagues how you're coming across. So if you fear you might look pushy, consider the possibility that you may simply look confident. The perfect balance is this: I'm okay, you're okay. So the example, I'd like to help, but it's not possible this evening. You establish a reasonable boundary. If you go with aggressive, you're joking, not after the day I've had, you actually run the risk of offending others, and you may lose social support in future. Same as passive aggressive. I'm so tired, but if I must, or I've said I'll do it, so I'll do it. The likely outcome is you feel annoyed and you feel underappreciated. Same thing with just being passive. I lose, you win. Well, okay, if you really want me to, you feel overwhelmed, stressed, and possibly resentful. So practice, practice, practice is key. If you feel your assertiveness could be better, how do you improve it? Well, you start small. You assert yourself over low stakes issues that will make the process less daunting. You rehearse, you act out the boundary setting in front of a mirror or with a trusted friend so that you can get comfortable with words. And you remember you have a right to assert your own needs. Saying it right. I understand your perspective, but I still think that, or I think that would be difficult. Let's set a time to discuss other options. I appreciate the offer, but it's really not my kind of thing. That's how to do it. 3 steps to know then. Describe, and make a request. Isn't that interesting? Describe the other person's behavior. Describe your feelings and make a request. For example, when you make fun of my accent, I feel embarrassed. Please stop teasing me about it. I don't know how easy that is, though. It's very easy to write this in a journal, which is what I've researched. But I think it's harder to actually see that done in practice, particularly in the workplace and particularly in schools. What about speaking up, asking for what you want? Because stress can be caused by having to deal with too many demands, but it can also be caused by having unmet needs. So learning how to articulate what you want is a key skill for preserving your well-being. Do you feel confident stating your needs, even in the face of criticism? I had to do it this week. And actually, by the end, I did feel confident. It wasn't perfect, but I did feel confident saying, actually, I'm not responsible for this. Have some of this feedback back. Real or imagined? Challenging others is difficult, isn't it? Because standing up for what we want, it can put you on a pedestal and it can leave you quite vulnerable. American psychologist Nando Pelusi actually observes that as a social species, we tend to factor power and dominance into most of our interactions, and most of us err on the side of submission. So asking for what we want can actually feel like we're challenging someone's status, which does feel risky. So Pelusi calls this Neanderthink, primitive instinct that generally doesn't apply in the modern world. His advice: accept, be clear, be civil, accept, allow yourself. So accept that you're doing what you believe is right, or asking for what you want may feel awkward, and practice tolerating that discomfort. I think therapy is really useful for that. Be clear about your preferences. Be civil and reasonable. Ask doesn't have to be pushy. Accept that you're entitled to ask and others can refuse. And actually allow yourself enough time to think when called upon to answer any questions. The tricks of the trade are this. This is an Egyptian study published in the Journal of Nursing Science, so another caring profession, borrowing from that. 2015, this one was, studied the effects of assertiveness training on psychiatric nurses, so a profession, of course, that requires the ability to balance the needs of others with your own needs and the ability to remain calm when facing criticism. The useful technique was this: calmly repeating the same simple refusal no matter what was said. When presented with an unclear or an uncomfortable situation, asking for more information and insisting on putting off angry conversations until all parties had calmed down. If criticized constructively, confidently agreeing that they had faults and made mistakes. And in the face of hostility, actually using this fogging, that is, finding a small part of the criticism they could agree with and affirming it without becoming defensive or making any promises. I think I did that pretty well this week. Real or imagined, but I think I did. Are you too scared to start, though? I think that sometimes I have been, because I've got it wrong sometimes. I've got it wrong. Hold my hands up. I've got it wrong. Sometimes it's more stressful to stay silent than speak up, but asserting what you think or want can actually be daunting. So treating it as a skill you can learn and try some of these simple low-stakes examples to get you used to it. So tell a friend that you respect a talent or virtue they possess. At a bar, ask for a small customization of your order. If you have a positive thought about a stranger, tell them. At a bookshop or library, describe your own taste confidently and ask for a suggestion. These sound very American, don't they? I don't want to stereotype, but these do sound a little bit American, don't they? Or do they? Can you relate to this? Be sure to comment if a colleague did a good job. And if you particularly admire someone's taste or skill, ask for pointers. Isn't that interesting? That's how to do it. Bish, bash, bosh. There it is. Time to hear from our sponsors. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more and I'll tell you all about what's happening this summer on TT Radio.
In education, we all want recruitment to be fair and inclusive because the gender pay gap won't disappear without clear, practical steps in how we hire. Recent national research shows schools are already taking meaningful action. 40% of leaders now include pay or progression details in adverts. 35% highlight well-being support. And around 1 in 5 are using anonymised shortlisting to reduce bias. Teaching Vacancies, the Department for Education's free official job listing service, makes these steps easier with clear salary fields, flexible working filters, and an application format that supports blind recruitment. It also removes previous salary questions so candidates are assessed on their skills and experience rather than their past pay. For your next hire or your net role, go online and search Teaching Vacancies Gov UK.
This show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit hachetlearning.com to explore the full range of titles.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Final 10 minutes of today's show. If you've just joined us, you are listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Of course you are. It's Phin Adams doing the Sunday breakfast show for the final time until September. We're talking it out right here. We're talking about stress. Of course we are. We're talking about de-stress. Of course we are. And we're talking about burnout, knowing when to stop. And actually, assert yourself.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
So in the final bit of today's show, we're talking about how do you combat some of that burnout? Do you assert yourself? Do you say what you need and say what you're lacking? And there's skills and techniques that you can do courses in it. I don't actually believe in assertiveness courses. I will say that, having banged on about it for the last 15 minutes. let's say something that's real now, I don't believe that a course is going to teach you those things. You just got to do it through practice and work out what your barriers are. And I think your barriers are very individual and unique. I think it's about working through those. That's what I think. There it is. But I want to talk about space, because what I thought was interesting about the England match yesterday was they did have space to score goals. Making the space, how do you do it? I think you don't make it, you find it. And I think sometimes the environment just won't give it to you. So how do you cope with busy spaces? Privacy, after all, is a fundamental human need. But the job we're in as teachers is not private. It's pretty public. So Sally Augustine, the American psychologist, says that privacy is a fundamental human need. And a 2012 American study found that people actually resort to a whole wide range of strategies to be able to sit alone on public transport. So I'm not talking about the classroom, although you might get the train to work, but I'm talking about what people resort to. So passive, avoiding contact, eye contact, listening to music on your headphones and pretending not to hear someone ask if the adjacent seat's taken, pretending to be asleep. Confrontational. We've all seen that on the public transport. Stretching out to take up more space. Piling the adjacent seat with belongings, pretending the seat is already taken. Now, it may be entirely ethical, but the study actually found that everyone does this sometimes, regardless of age, gender, race, class, protected characteristics. So if you're worn out and you need some peace, it's best to stick to the gentler, passive methods and be prepared to give way if someone does sit next to you. Using the confrontational methods could actually backfire if somebody decides to challenge you. We can't always keep others at arm's length, but insulating ourselves when we can and using peaceful moments to counterbalance. Because let's face it, we can get overloaded in close proximity. Other people's voices, the heat of their skin, their smell are intrusive. Our senses have to process so much at a rate we can't control. We feel stressed. You can get sensory overload. So this is according to American psychology professor Robert Feldman. Knowing which one is applicable can find the solution to you. Now, if you are a pastoral leader, head of year, any of those things, you will probably have experienced sensory overload. So blocking out what you can, closing your eyes. Could you do that when you got 30 students queuing for you at the door? Listen to music. Can you do that? I don't think any of these strategies actually work in a pastoral setting of a school. Carry a sachet of something with a soothing scent. I suppose you could do that. Yeah, I'm just reflecting on these. These are quite generic, aren't they? These aren't fully equipped for teachers, although you might get something out of some of these. Needing protection. So you might feel threatened by people coming too close, because if they chose to attack you, you'd be vulnerable. So if you feel tense or panicky, try calming your breathing. A genuinely calming breath is key. And sometimes managing relationships. You might prefer to stand further away from people you don't know well because you're unable to maintain personal intimacy with them. And I'm talking personal space. So if you feel there's too much intimacy, the American psychotherapist Deb Elkin says, use the shield technique. So this is the creative play that can actually reduce stress. So in the final bit of today's show, I'm going to talk about the shield technique. And I'm not talking about romantic relationships. Of course I'm not. I'm talking about intimate relationships that you might have with colleagues. And actually the relationships that we have pastorally can maybe become really challenging to the point that you might want to employ this, creating your shield. So Deb Elkin, American psychotherapist, we can reduce the stress of overcrowding by creating an imaginary shield around our bodies, devising a different design for different situations. So next time someone's in your space, start building this. So you just think about the shield, you imagine a shield around your body, devising a design, right? So it could be a glowing light, marble. Is it heavy and tough or thin and flexible? Is it precious? Does it have beautiful decorations? Does it have sharp spikes? That is really creative. That's almost too creative for a Sunday morning. But there it is. Thank you, Deb Elkin, for all your contributions to TT Radio. I'm not sure Deb Elkin knows that she's contributed, but contributed she has. Right, 5 more minutes of today's show. I'm back on I think it's no, actually, I might be doing an August show. I'll get back to you. Do check out our socials on TT Radio to see when I'm next on. If you like the show, there's also a full back catalogue of shows that you could listen to and eavesdrop on, should you so wish, because that's what radio is all about, eavesdropping. But if you're not happy with that, then you could, of course, listen to a whole host of shows that we've got. We've got the Sunday Breakfast Show with Darren Lester, Sunday 9 a.m. He talked about Not I, Robot. So using the fact that there is the first district of an AI-powered robot to support STEM education. I've seen some of the robots actually in the school I work at. They do exist, but it's not a teaching robot. It's more for the person that's not going to school to essentially be in the room as a physical body. The Late Show, Sunday, 8 p.m. With Konstantinos, Belonging in Higher Education, Creative Inclusive Learning for Diverse Students. The Twilight Show with Tony, Summer Lovin'. Let's share some positive, funny and uplifting educational stories. We also have a curriculum for the future. That's Paula Delaney, Monday, 6 p.m. The Twilight Show, Rethinking Opportunity, Technical Education and Success. Loads and loads of shows actually, and loads of sponsored shows as well. So do check those out, ttradio.org, or just find us on the socials. We're everywhere. It's a pretty good promotion of lots of shows on TT Radio. So I hope you have a fantastic summer. I hope you get away. I hope you get some rest. I hope you deal with whatever challenges you face in your school setting. It was lovely to have your company right here on TT Radio. I will see you at the end of August, likely, probably for a Saturday show, a refreshed version. Keep things being refreshed right here. But we shall see. So I hope to have your company then. And have a fantastic summer. I've said that already, but keep us on in the background, ttradio.org. We've got a whole host of shows. And I'm going to stop talking. Have a lovely summer. See you very much.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.
Outstanding and world-class vision and world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused.